Now we're gonna do a fucking My Hero arc tier list. It might make slightly more sense to do this like a week later. When like it looks like this chapter or this arc is nearing its end, but I wouldn't want to do an arc tier list for a little while, so we're gonna do it now. We are gonna be doing the arcs in like order of release, you know. So I'll like say when it's no longer anime only, or when it's manga only, more accurately, because this is gonna be from a manga perspective. Most of what I've read, or most of what I've seen in My Hero, is from the manga, like first time. And what I didn't read in the manga, I have gone back and reread, actually specifically for this tier list, just to see what the depiction was like, because I felt like it'd be kind of unfair to pick and choose anime manga for the arc tier list. So I just wanted to stick with one in like total and run with that the whole way through. There we go. Starting off with I feel like the entrance exams. I put the entrance exams just like, it's Deku, Slime, Bakugo. You know the arcs. You know the arcs. We don't need to go over like fucking chapter numbers. I think the start of My Hero, I'm just starting it there for like while I'm talking about it, is really strong. I don't think anyone would have given a shit about the show, obviously, if it didn't have a good start. It was really emotional too. Like it had me hooked on the end of the first chapter of the anime, of the manga, and the first episode of the anime. For some like emotional moments, I will have to talk about like a little bit of both on how manga and anime handles it, but this would be primarily about the manga, I feel like. But a really strong emotional start. You have a pretty good understanding of who Deku is. Um, Especially like while he's like trying to get into school and stuff, and like he just wants to save people. He's an emotional person. He was bullied, and it's great. And like I immediately started to love Deku. I fell in love with him just off rip, right from the get go. That said, I'm gonna put it in C tier because surprise, I'm making this list because I really like My Hero Academia. I don't think there are really any bad arcs. Like the arcs in D tier, I'm gonna say are the worst arcs, but I don't think they're bad. And this is a great start to a series, but in comparison to everything else in My Hero, I don't think it holds up as well. And I think the series just starts off like as an okay show with like a good emotional like resonance and a neat power system. But it just gets better. So first arc, entrance exam, him getting the power and him applying to UA. I'm kind of grouping that together because I don't have enough to talk about like the small individual. Like we're not gonna be talking about like micro arcs. Like what did I think about Deku working out on the beach? No. Okay. The battle trial arc. This is also gonna include quirk apprehension tests. I also feel like this is a C tier. Maybe it's a little better than the beginning. I do think it's an improvement. We get good fights, we get to learn a good deal more about Bakugo, especially with like at the very end of the arc. There's some good moments there. And I also really fucking like Bakugo's character right from the beginning. It does a good job setting up like main cast Bakugo, All Might, Deku. Cool fights with Deku and Bakugo. It shows a good deal more for Deku because like up till this point he was kind of like a spineless crybaby who wouldn't really do anything unless it was to like save other people, and this kind of shows like now he will stand up for himself, which is really important because like no one, it would be hard to root for him, if he was just like a doormat all the time. So that helps a lot with like Deku's character. Yeah, I think a strong C tier. Strong C tier is fair. USJ, easy B tier. I think this is like kind of gold standard of like My Hero arc. Not gold standard because I feel like a lot of them are better than USJ, but USJ is really when the series I feel like starts to get a lot better. It's the first we start getting stakes. We see real villains. We see like Shigaraki for the first time. And by the way, I didn't know this wall like reading this for the first time, Horikoshi, I assumed he was like most manga authors, where like the art starts off like pretty okay, and then it works up to like the amazing point we're at. You look at this, Horikoshi. This is the first panel we see Shigaraki in. Was always an amazing artist. Like, it's insane how good of an artist he was, like off rip, and just making villains feel scary and shit. Like, that's the first time we see Shigaraki. That's like, I think like 18 chapters in, and he just pops off with that. It's insane. I can't praise the art enough in this show. But I mean, it also sets, we get to see fucking All Might go off. And the anime does pop off way, way more for the All Might Nomu fight. But even without that, I still think it's better than everything else. You get to see a Razorhead just be fucking awesome. I mean, he really is pretty cool. I mean, that's just goes to that saying, And from USJ, we go into the sports festival. And sports festival, I mean, we're on an upward trend here, Sports festival is fucking great. Horikoshi's character writing really kind of starts to stand out about like constructing a character with a short, efficient backstory, giving you the context needed, and then giving you a great emotional climax for that. And he only gets better with that and expands instead of doing like short little compressed ones. He goes into really fucking great character arcs for people. And it's kind of your first taste of that. Todoroki had one of the first type things, and if like this was the arc that made me go like, okay, well I gotta read the manga now. Like that's just what has to happen. What was that? I still finished season 2, but after that I was like, okay, well we're reading the manga now. But I mean, like everything about this arc was so good. It's not even just the Todoroki stuff. I mean, the pacing was incredible. We didn't spend like any time we didn't care about with just like random fights of people that were just showing up out of nowhere, people we've never met. All of the stages were super interesting and a ton of fun. The obstacle course, you got to see Deku like be creative and solve problems, and he fucking won it without a quirk. That was fucking incredibly hype. Shinso, just like a random general studies class, and it's just a one short fight, and like I fucking was tearing up at the end of the Shinso Deku fight. It was great. Great showcase for a lot of the other like side characters. Like Ida gets a little sprinkle is leading off for like Stain stuff. But him like standing up to Deku, you get Ochiko's or Uraraka. Uraraka, it's Ochiko Uraraka. I don't know. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean. You get her like motivation. She's fucking awesome fight with Bakugo. Makes sense. Doesn't drag. Outcome was reasonable. It was a cool thing. Actually, okay. I have one problem with that. Actually, this is kind of a tangent, but Ochiko's whole plan in the Bakugo versus her fight was to touch him and make him float, so she could send him out of bounds. Bakugo can fly, so by making him float, it would just make him stronger. Because he could fly easier, right? I don't. Maybe I'm crazy. That's bugged me for a while. But that's not enough to take that out of A tier. Fucking great arc. That's when My Hero I think went from average shonen to being like, what are we watching here? What's this gonna be? This could be something fucking great. Okay, now this might be the first surprise take of the tier list. Putting Stain above USJ, but putting Stain arc in B tier. It's pretty short, and it has an awesome fight. In Stain alone, I mean, Stain's an A tier villain. Don't get me wrong, but half of the arc is not about Stain. Half the arc is about like work studies and all the other students. And we get some great stuff with Ida and everything. And it's kind of cool. I really like full cowling as like a power-up, because it's not really a power-up. It's just Midoriya realizing he doesn't have to use one for all in one place at a time. which it is cool because like if you're thinking about it, like I thought of full cowling before Midoriya did. That's not true. When he was talking about like trying to switch, like jumping off the walls and being like, oh, okay, I need to put it on my arms and my legs. I'm like, why don't you just put it on your arms and your legs? Why don't you just do both? I didn't think about doing like your whole body because I didn't think about like why you would need super strength in your like chest. But you know, to each their own. To each their own. But I mean, it is really good for like world building and like the society and brings up questions about like heroism, and it has like probably the highest stakes we've had so far. But I mean, like the first half is kind of you know, and same thing. If we were just talking about the fight with Stain and like Hosu City, if Hosu City was his own arc, A tier, easy. But the entirety of like the work study thing, I think goes to B tier. I think that's fair. Okay, final exams. This is another hot take for me because this surprised me. I originally was thinking this was going to be a D tier. I thought in the anime this was very boring. It dragged. There's a lot of fights we really didn't care about. Uh, that was like incredibly slow. And then we had like a big finale fight. And then right after that, we had another big moment with Shigaraki, and it felt kind of weird because like I wasn't complaining at the time, but it's kind of like you had like two finales back to back, and I didn't realize why that was until I reread this arc in the manga and found out that the arrangement of the battles is completely different, and it totally changes the pacing of this arc. In the manga, all the fights are happening like concurrent, and you're kind of jumping between them, with like a couple chapters mainly focusing on one battle, and you'll get like a few panels from other ones. Which I mean can be annoying when you're like really invested in one fight, but it super helps the pacing of the arc. And the first fights you go through is like Todoroki and Momo's and Bakugo and Deku's. Like it's right off the gate with the ones you want to see the most. And then you're getting like a little bit for all the other ones kind of in between those. And then once their fights ends, you have like 1-2 chapters of all the other fights. And then those might be kind of boring, but after that you get the Maul encounter, and that pulls you right back up. And it makes the arc a lot better than the manga. That said, that's just enough to pull it out of D tier. I think that would go above battle training. But I still think it's C tier. I don't think it's as good as Stain or USJ at all. But I was honestly expecting that to be a D tier arc. But the manga saves that one. I like the formatting a lot more. Pacing's a lot better. A lot snappier. Fucking artwork is fucking great for Shigaraki still. He does a great job with Shigaraki. It's crazy how good he draws him. You'll love it. Love to see it. But yeah, I mean, good moments for Bakugo. You know, another little footstep of character development for him, but just one. You know, baby steps. But yeah, it was a lot better than I thought it would be in the manga. I really liked it. It was fun. Next we got Forest Training. Let's go. Forest Training Camp, I think, is another, tried and true, like perfect, good. Do I like Forest Training more than Stain? I don't think I like Forest Training more than Stain. I think once you'll see more of my B tiers, it'll kind of make sense, like the standard that I'm setting for B to A tier to S tier. S tier is like, the tippy top. I think B tier is like the gold standard of how good I think an average My Hero arc is. Like when I think of My Hero, I think of these arcs in B tier, When I think of A tier, it's the big emotional huge moments, And S tier is like, I fucking love this show so much, And D tier's like, yeah, let's not talk about that. But Forest Training Camp has some fucking great shit in it. Deku kind of pops off and has like, it's his real first big moment, He's a 1v1 with Muscular. Actually nearly cried. It's easier for the anime to get me to like feel the feels real hard because there's like the music and everything. But the fucking My Hero panel, when I saw that the first time, might be the closest a manga has ever gotten me to crying. Not counting like a horror manga that's like made to make you cry. That those are cheating. 'Cause it was. Ugh, never, let's not talk about those. The League of Villains. Like all the guys showing up. At USJ, you weren't really worried about all the villains showing up, but here, like Dobby, Twice, Toga, the villains are like actually scary. They got some weight to them. They'll fuck you up. There's some entry. We got our first fear of like, does someone actually die with Ragdoll? Just good moments and actual consequences too. It's the first time, Bakugo got kidnapped. They lost. Bakugo got kidnapped. Deku had permanent damage to his arms. Yeah, about that. But I'm sorry. Never mind. Yeah, it was really good. Fucking all the shit with Koda and the future things that come from Deku's relationship with that and him actually being someone's hero. I really love the arc. It's really it sets up, like kind of the core things about the show of what it means to be a hero. Fucking love it. It was a shit ton of fun to watch the first time and rewatching the anime, and I've watched it a lot more since then. We got a big boy here. Hideout raid. A hideout raid. I fucking love the hideout raid. This was like, I might have read this whole thing in a day. I had to read it like a couple of times. Then I watched it in the anime. A hideout raid is not only the most important from like a story perspective and world building perspective, like the things this sets in motion. It's just so good to watch. You get to see like the pro heroes for the first time actually being pro heroes, not in a school setting. They're not like being teachers saving students. These are like pro heroes doing big shit. Like not kind of like the first episode with like Mount Lady and Kamui Woods. You get to see like top 10 heroes going against the League of Villains, and then there's like a huge twist of what I assumed everyone thought was going to be, like the final battle of All Might, All for One, just happening right then and there. It's like if like, an arc into Shippuden, Sasuke and Naruto started fighting. You'd be like, whoa, this isn't supposed to happening yet, and it's like, nah, dude, we gotta wait for Boruto and Sadara. They're gonna square off now. Analogy doesn't work that well, but you get what I mean. The big bads win at it like right away, and I was not ready for it, and it was so well done. Even though like we didn't care too much about All for One, they made a really good job of making this fight with All Might personal and making it like have real stakes. There's so much writing on this, and there was like probably again the best stakes the series has had so far. All Might really could have died there, and he kind of did. Like losing All for One, kind of like that. Sets a great shit for Bakugo. Like if there were people who doubted it and hadn't been like paying attention to the small Bakugo moments he had been happening, there's a fucking great line of him saying like, I've already been won over by the way All Might looks when he wins, when he's just fucking telling the League of Villains to fuck off. Oh man. And and it sets up Endeavor's whole story arc, which I think is one of the best things that has happened in My Hero Academia is Endeavor's whole story arc. That is a easy A. Okay. Ooh, okay. And we got the man right here. Provisional license exams. Provisional license exams has the downside of being a necessary evil, being set after one of the best arcs, the best arc in the show at this point in time, and also being very bad and boring, which is sad. It's sad that it decided to be like that. I wish it made better choices too, but it really didn't. A lot of the games are kind of interesting, but you're throwing a lot of characters that you don't really care about. Like from the provisional license exams, I know 3 characters. I know Cammy, I know Inasa, yeah, and Evil Deku. I don't even remember his name. Earthquake dude. Oh, also Gang Orca. You can't forget about Gang Orca. Besides that, like I really there was a lot of forgettable characters. Oh, there's that one girl who can turn herself inside out or something. She like restricts into her waist. But you're throwing a lot of stuff you don't really care about. Um, there was that one Ayama moment that's pretty pog, right? Um, but I mean, it drags, it dragged, and it dragged, and it dragged. This was the longest arc to date so far, and it was really boring because there were no stakes. Uh, it was so slow. We got some cool fights, but I mean, the game of like tag is kind of like, I'd rather a tournament, honestly, or something different, the free ball thing. I did like the idea of like the rescue scenario. That was cool. But I mean, besides that, that's really all it had going for it. Inasa was a cool character, but they just threw so much at you, and it was so long, and it really just wasn't. I feel like it could have been handled in a different way for them to get their provisional licenses. I did like that it did set up, Bakugo and Todoroki not getting their licenses, but I also think that's because they would have made the overhaul arc a lot easier if they were allowed to be involved with that. They couldn't just throw everyone at it. Speaking of the overhaul arc, it is long as shit. And this is also a big importance. I have been at this point from here on. I'm 100% in the manga. I'm only reading manga from all of these. Forest Training is when I started. Overhaul in the manga. So I might like Overhaul in the manga. The Overhaul arc, or it's technically the Shihasai arc, or like 8 precepts. I don't forget the official English name of the arc. Arc names are weird. Technically, people don't even call it MVA like officially. Well, everyone calls it MVA, but that's not its official name apparently. But the Overhaul arc, I think, is great. It does so much. It's like its first villain. It does like villain and society focus. I love villain focus. I feel like I'm sure there are anime that do good heavy villain focus. If you can think of any, let me know in the comments. But I really can't think of a ton that do like hard villain focus. Besides, like, I don't know, Hunter x Hunter does some stuff with the Phantom Troop. Like they get a lot of screen time, and I mean Naruto does do some that, but I mean usually if you watch like a Super Eye Patch Wolf's video about like what makes villains great, again, it's like that thing of like them talking about the heroes, how to beat the villains, how to beat the heroes, or what their next evil plan is. It's not just like character focus and time for the villains to be themselves. Which, I mean, this is still kind of very plot wrapped up villain focus, but it's not about the main cast. It's about Shigaraki like growing as a villain. We get that awesome moment with Twice, and Twice just randomly becomes this fucking really cool character right at the beginning of the arc. And it's like, okay, Hori, I didn't think you need to do that for the comedic character, but sure, make him my favorite character. That's cool. And they do what the joint training arc did, is they add a shit ton of new characters. They add like Fat Gum, they add the Big Three, they add all of the 8 precepts, like pretty much everyone in Overhaul's group. But the difference is they're all awesome and really cool characters. Rappa is awesome. Fucking Overhaul is awesome. Eri is awesome. Minato is fucking a character. Chronostasis. These are characters like I actually remember. I remember their quirks. I remember what they did for the plot. Because the stakes were a lot higher, and it was a lot more important to know who these people were. Fucking Mirio quickly became one of my top 11 characters, maybe. Well, okay, at the time he was probably top 5, maybe top 3 when it first came out. When we first met Mirio in his first fight against Overhaul, he was probably my number 1 character in the series at that point during that fight. God, it was so good. It was so good. All of the panels in that page were great. The climax was awesome. It felt believable. Horikoshi's showing he doesn't need a lot of time to like set up a villain. He can kind of just throw one at you, make it good, give him a great motivation, Uh, that's another kind of problem with the anime. They didn't talk too much about like Overhaul actually kind of viewing quirks as like a disease and stuff, and because that kind of played heavily into his character and stuff, and like some of the theories about quirks being formed and stuff. Because I feel like world building is super important for My Hero. It's like a super important aspect of the story and how plot events tie to each other. Is kind of understanding the world Horikoshi built, and it's all tiny stuff sprinkled along the way. And like it doesn't matter how long it is, it still feels tense the whole way. There's stakes the whole time. Right off since like they first bump into Eri, you realize what's going down. Oh, it's just so good. It's just so good. Strong leader for A tier. Okay, remedial courses. Remedial courses. Um, not bad. Not great. I think it goes strong into C tier. It's very short. It's a fun challenge. You know, it's all these characters you wouldn't expect having to deal with kids. I like the idea of it. It's fun, and there's actually a surprising amount of like plot substance in here, despite it being kind of like a little. I don't want to say filler arc because filler arc is like a legit definition. When I say filler, it's like a short bridge in between two arcs almost. It's like, hey, here's what's been going on with these characters. I wouldn't even call it that important, but it brings up a lot of stuff. It sets up Endeavor's character arc even more. It really shows like the first steps of like, oh shit, he's actually like starting to change. It sets up. One second, I'm getting my door. It sets up like the idea of the quirk singularity. The first time the quirk singularity is mentioned is in the like the retake of the test arc. I forget what it's called. Remedial courses. Yeah, it's in the remedial courses. First time the singularity theory is brought up. Yeah. It shows some cool moments for like Bakugo, which I mean like everyone fucking likes. I say everyone. I'm sure there are people who hate Bakugo, but I mean he's the number one ranked character in the popularity polls for a while now for a reason. I don't know if he still is. I doubt he is actually. That's probably like Endeavor or something. But yeah, fucking great things. Okay, this might be another hot take for some people. I think School Festival is a solid B tier. I really like the School Festival. Gentle. A lot of people give him shit saying he's kind of like a gag character. He's actually, I think, a great foil for Deku. He's what Deku could have been really easily. I mean, like, Deku and Gentle literally did the exact same things. The only difference is Deku met All Might 10 minutes earlier. And Gentle just happened to fuck up. And actually, like, a really sweet relationship and just an awesome character, I think. They don't immediately discard Eri, like, right after saving her and be like, okay, we did that. Now she's a character that exists, but we're going to ignore her forever. And they kind of bring her up as needed as, like, the story goes through. Not as needed, actually, because they didn't need to do that. But it also really ties in to something that was brought up back in the Hideout Raid arc, which is about the core theme of the show, what it means to be a hero. And that heroes save people's hearts, which I fucking love. Just the concept that, like, it's not just about beating bad guys, it's about, like, saving people. So they have a whole arc just about making someone feel better, pretty much. And I loved this in the manga. I loved this in the anime. Even you get cool stuff for Deku. The Gentle fight, I think, is in the manga, and it's pretty good in the anime. In the manga, I think it was one of the best fights to date. Honestly, it was hype as shit. And you might say a lot of people might think the stakes aren't high. If you said the stakes aren't high, I don't even know what show you're watching, because the stakes were like Aries' happiness, which I mean, like, that's pretty fucking high stakes to me. Like, yeah, no one's gonna die, but it's like, again, it's what the show's about. And I think it drew a big divide, at least in the anime community, about what people thought My Hero Academia was about and what. Well, I can't say that. It's not like I'm not Horikoshi. I don't know the exact direction of the show. Based on the current arcs, I'd say My Hero is less about beating bad guys and more about saving people. And it's kind of like the direct arc is showing kind of that the current arc is kind of showing that, I'd say, pretty clear cut. I guess people could argue the other way, but it's kind of, subtext, all that stuff. Ooh hoo hoo, big boy alert. Whoop whoop whoop. Sound the alarm, sound the alarm. Sound the alarm. Pro hero arc. Oh. Do I even need to describe it? Do I even need to talk about why this is such a good arc? Hawks was introduced, probably one of my top 5 characters off a rip. I loved Hawks. Such a cool character. So fun. Great motivation. Great idea for what he wants to do. It's so short, but it has so much into it. Endeavor in this arc became also probably my top 5. The fight against High End did so much. One second, my throat's getting a little. Yeah, chill. The fight against High End was so much more than just like a hype fight. It did a great amount of work for like Endeavor's character arc. The fucking line of just the one line of him going like, "You are me from the past or me from an alternate future, be burned up and put to rest." God, that's hype. God, that's so hype. That's literally him like showing up how much he wants to change, and it's just to him, And now, just as the Hideout Raid was previously one of the best arcs and was followed up by the Remedial Course Exams, the current best arc is followed up by the Joint Training arc. Joint Training arc's biggest problem, I'd say, would be chalked up to pacing. Now, this is a failure of me. I've not binged the Joint Training arc, and I think a lot of the problems that I had with the Joint Training arc could have been solved if you are binge reading or binge watching it. I watched it because Joint Training is actually the arc I caught up to the anime or to the manga with, and at this point we're getting a drip feed of chapters. There were tons of week breaks. There were lots of chapters that were like 9 pages, very short. And it just really started to drag. Yeah, a lot of the fights were cool, but there's a lot of downtime in those fights still, and a lot of stuff we didn't care about happening in those fights. We got some cool like power-ups for all of the side cast, and it was important when we got to see Class B, but I think the pacing could have been handled a lot better than it was in like totality. Okay, all right. Another big swinger. We got My Villain Academia. My Villain Academia is I'm gonna put it above Pro Hero. I love My Villain Academia so much. It is it's almost like a typical shonen anime arc. It's like a fairy tale arc, like an arc of a fairy tale, but it's for the villains of an established show being attacked by another villain group, which turns this like generic arc with like very tropey shonen power-ups into this really interesting niche thing, exploring the villains, and we just get to spend time with the villains, which I love so much. If actually someone, if they've seen like an arc like this, let me know in the comments in another show, because I'd love to see a show that puts villain focus like this. Oh, by the way, at this point on, we are in anime spoilers, unless as time release. Once season 5 is over, only the last arc we'll be doing will be anime spoilers. But yeah, from here on out, at time of release, this is anime spoiler material. I forgot to mention that. My bad. I should throw a little disclaimer on the screen. I'll do that. Don't worry about it. God, but we get Toga's full backstory, which is awesome. We get hints of Dabi's backstory, which, I mean, at this point, it was kind of clearly obvious that who he is. No spoilers if you haven't figured it out yet. But God, like the volume art just puts a smile on my face. God, Shigaraki's backstory amazing. Twice's backstory amazing. Toga's backstory pretty good. Her fight was amazing. Twice literally turns into the most dangerous character in the whole show this arc. Twice becomes probably one of the scariest people. Also, why did never mind? I'm not going to talk about. No, I'm not going to talk about minor plot holes or problems that happen to the show. That's fine. We get to see Gigantomachia for the first time. Pretty sure that's how you say it. That's how I say it. So shut up if you say it differently. Shigaraki becomes incredibly terrifying and like an actual threat. You know, like we've seen him grow and be like smarter, but now he is like a force to be reckoned with, and he gets a shit ton of assets. And it's pretty much just like, you know, it's like a fairy tale fight. They all go, they fight a big bad group, they get split off, and they have to fight the minions of the group while the leader goes to face off against the leader, and they're doing it to save their friends. And it's so good. It's so good. Oh, I love it so much. It's like fantastic in its simplicity. Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. That's how you do it. Okay, Endeavor Agency arc. This I was broken on this. I want to give it A tier. I don't think it's better than the Hideout Raid. I think it deserves to be an A tier, solely for the time we get to spend with Endeavor. Endeavor is, I'd say, my favorite character in the show, up to current, like up to current manga. Surprisingly, Deku's finally made a comeback. I thought it was funny. I've always said I've liked Deku as a protagonist, and I don't understand the hate of it. But at the same time, for the majority of the show, Deku hasn't even been in like my top 3 characters. So I mean, like, I get it and I don't get it. I don't hate him as a protagonist. I think he does a lot of great things. I like him as a character, but then again, there are a lot of better characters in My Hero, in my opinion. So like, I get it and I don't get it. I don't think he deserves hate, but he's not the best character in the show. Right now, he's climbing back up there. But that's current manga stuff. That arc isn't over yet. We'll see where he goes. We get a ton of stuff with Endeavor. We get to see Endeavor, like a completely changed Endeavor in this arc. We saw little twinges of that right after Pro Hero, with its conversation with like his family and everything. But this is like heavy Endeavor focus. We get great stuff with Hawks, and we get like cool moments for all the students and stuff. But really, I'd say this is Endeavor's arc. It's his place to shine. We get great character moments for him with stuff like that. We pretty much get it confirmed Dabi is Toya. Spoiler alert, my bad, but I mean, like, is that even a spoiler? I'm sorry, is that even a spoiler? I feel bad for saying that now, but I mean, like, that's like, people were talking about that since the Forest Hideout arc. Like, literally, since people saw Dabi, they were saying that. But yeah, I mean, it's fucking great. I might bump it up above Hideout Raid. I think it's really good. I love it. Okay, in the last finished arc of the manga, where does it go? Oh, am I so mad that there weren't a bunch of high stakes consequences for this arc? Do I think those balance out the things that happened in the midpoint? Like the high, do I think the highs cancel out the lows? Fuck no. This is an S tier. This is an S tier, hands down, and the best arc in the show. No question to me. No question to me at all. It's in my mind, no doubt, peak My Hero Academia. It's very long. There's a lot that happens. I don't even remember exactly where it starts. I'm sorry, I failed as a content creator. I think. Oh yeah, that day. That day is where it starts. Obviously. But God, everything with Hawks and Twice and Dabi, and even Toga. Toga has amazing development. I want to see where. I want to see where the rest of the league is right now. What they're doing. Oh my gosh! I had an idea. All right, we can talk about that in a second. But no, fuck it. We'll talk about it right now. Can you imagine the League of Villains coming in to fight All for One to save Shigaraki. Oh, I'd love that. Oh, I'd love that. Um, and who does Ganto Machia follow now? Okay, well, we can talk about that another day. Those that could be a topic for another video. Um, but oh my gosh, the fight Shigaraki has against all the villains and him like kind of coming into his own was so good. It was so good. Everything about this arc, like once the war started really kicking off, I loved so much. We get to see Mirko being super badass. We get to see Eraserhead being super badass. He really is cool. We get to see Endeavor going all out again. We get to see Shigaraki be an absolute monster and actually have like his conviction, his power, everything. Oh, I love everything about this. And the biggest complaints I had, I mean, like, there were character deaths that people thought would happen that didn't, and I don't think it's really changed too much. I mean, like, for all intents and purposes, they kind of are dead. And it still gives great motives. I don't think it made the arc worse. Um, and there were still deaths. There were still big consequences. For a lot of the characters involved. Oh, it was just so good. It was just so good. Yeah, so that is the end point of the arc. Let me know if you agree, disagree. What you would have ranked higher, what you would have ranked lower. I mean, there are a few things that I think people would have definitely done differently. Probably mainly School Festival. I think that I have a good deal higher, maybe staying higher for some people. But yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate it a lot. Do leave a comment about what you think. Like, subscribe, all that bullshit. Give me your money. I appreciate it. Thanks. Stop by the Twitch stream too. Yeah, that shit.